Hey folks, welcome to the November Azure Arc Enabled Server monthly forum. Today we're going to do a deep dive specifically on the extension service. So this is going to be one of our more technical focused sessions, and it's going to be very, very tactical in terms of a lot of neat capabilities that we have across our extension service. So we're going to step back, introduce some of our extension service key operations and best practices, and Mariah will be walking you through that. Subsequently, we'll have some new capabilities in terms of extension troubleshooting and um, using Azure Copilot for some of those troubleshooting scenarios that Garage and Shalab will be sharing. We'll then move to frictionless extension deployment capabilities that Raghu will be showcasing. And finally, we'll be ending with extension securities, including all our allow and block lists that Justin will be showcasing. So we have a lot of different demos, a lot of really technical subject matter experts from each of these different areas of the extension service today. So this is a great opportunity to kind of learn about extension best practices, operations, security, etc. And we hope this is a very valuable resource for everyone. Just so you are aware, Microsoft Ignite is in Chicago next week. If you are attending Ignite and want to connect, the Azure Arc product group, a lot of our members are going to be there, be present in the Adaptive Cloud booth. There's a number of sessions. We'd love to connect with you in Chicago there during Ignite. And also following Ignite, we have a number of announcements lined up. You'll be receiving a newsletter that summarizes all of the key announcements that do happen in Ignite. One last piece of housekeeping before we dive into today's server forum is the next session is going to be a Windows Server focused session. So we're going to talk about what's greatest and latest in terms of Azure Arc plus Windows Server for our December server forum and going into that in addition to some of our Ignite announcements. So with that, let's get after it with our content. I'll have Mariah take over for our slides and speak to a little bit of the extension service and setting background with that and some of the best practices. Thanks, Mariah.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Hold on one second. Let me just make sure I have the right screen here. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Hey everyone, yeah, thanks for joining us today. My name is Mariah. I am an engineer on the Arc for Servers team. Specifically, I focus on the extension manager and working with the extension teams to make sure that you are able to run extensions on your non-Azure machines. So I wanted to first start off a little bit just by breaking down the kind of the components of the Arc agent, because there's a lot of different pieces that go into connecting your non-Azure machines into being able to use these Azure services. So there's 4 kind of main pieces. The first one is the Arc agent itself. This is what actually connects your machine into Azure so that you're able to communicate with Azure as a whole. And that is also the HIMDS service, which allows that communication channel. Then there's the extension manager, which is an agent that is part of the Arc agent, but it's specifically for just managing all the extensions on the box. And then there's the policy agent, or otherwise known as the machine configuration or guest config service. And this is what manages all of the machine configuration policies on the box. And then there's all of the extensions, and those are, as I'm sure you guys are aware, they do a lot of different functionalities. They run different services and programs within the box. So these are kind of what comprise what's running on your box when you connect into Arc. So the focus today is more on the extension manager and the extensions, and this is the main agent that I work on. So the extension manager manages all the extensions that you're going to run on your machine. Extensions are defined with a specific schema, and this is across the board for both Azure and Arc. And by using this, by adhering to this schema, it enables new extensions to be able to be onboarded pretty seamlessly without making major infrastructure changes. So as long as these extensions are following that pattern, we're able to bring new ones on and add new features that then you're able to easily bring onto your machines. Okay. So the different extension operations that we support are install, enable, disable, and uninstall. These are the main ones. There are a couple of subcategories, but this is what covers the majority of the operations that are run from the extension. So each extension is going to have a definition for these operations, and this is what the manager is going to call when an extension is installed or updated or removed. So the extension manager is running as a service on the machine continuously, and it communicates with another service in Azure. And so it's able to pull updates whenever from the portal or from the PowerShell API or however you're installing your extensions. Those are going to get communicated into a service in Azure, and then the extension manager is able to pick up those requests. And when it gets a new request, it compares the request with whatever the state of that extension is on the box, and then it will just determine what operation it needs to perform. So if this is a brand new extension, it hasn't seen it before, it's going to perform a full install, which is going to call install initially to kind of install any initial features that are needed to be able to run the extension, and then it will call enable, which applies the settings to the box. And the extensions themselves can define these operations however they want. So as long as they're doing the basic functionality that's here, they can do whatever they want. So most extensions are spinning up their own services, oftentimes multiple services, to then be able to run their own components and then manage their own components within that. So yeah, install, if the extension is already on the box, but then you're deploying new settings, then the agent will only call enable, which just basically applies those new settings to the machine. If it's a delete request, it'll call the disable and uninstall, which pair together to be able to make sure all the services are cleaned up and then everything gets cleaned up from the extension. And then upgrade, if you're upgrading the extension version, then that will delete the old extension and then install the new extension. And oh, by the way, if there are any questions, I don't know if we're going to have time for live questions after this, but definitely feel free to post in the chat and I will try to go through and respond to those afterwards. Okay, so I just wanted to go over just a couple of like some common troubleshooting things to go over with extensions that we see pretty often. So one of the biggest things for sure is that making sure that you are using the latest version of both the Arc agent and the extensions. Both the Arc agent and extensions release new fixes and features for the most part on about a monthly cadence. And you can, I can post the link too. We have a document that shows all the latest updates for each version and which major bug fixes have been addressed as well. So that's usually the first thing we recommend, like upgrading and making sure you're on the latest version is going to fix a lot of the issues that you run into. Another thing is checking the error message in the extension portal. So we try really hard to pick up as much as we can in whatever the extension is outputting in their error files to report that back in the portal. And I'll show you just in just a second. I can show you an example of this. And we work with the extensions as well to try to make these errors as user-friendly as possible, so that if there is something that on your end you can fix, or that is a clear reason of why the extension didn't work or wasn't able to be installed, you can take action on that. For some of the issues, if you're seeing you're not able to figure it out, or if it's not working, I mean, the good old uninstalling and reinstalling will fix a lot of those problems. And then finally, we do have an upcoming copilot tool that's going to be able to be used for troubleshooting some common extension issues. And yeah, once I'm finished here, Garage will be going through some more details of that. But really quick, I just wanted to give a quick example here. So this is an AWS machine that I've onboarded to Arc here. It's an Ubuntu machine. So this is just in the overview portal. So if you go down to the settings and extensions here, you can see all the extensions that are installed. And yes, as you can see, there's 2 extensions here that have updates available. So certainly, I mean, like being able to upgrade those, just come up here, update. That'll make sure you're running the latest versions of those. But then over here, if you look at the status, so most of these are in the succeeded state. But if you look here, the OMS agent, which is part of the log analytics agent that is now being deprecated. But just for example's sake, if you click on the failed one here, it gives you some more detailed error messages here. And so what you can see, you can come in and it says, extension error output, blah, 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 extension message, install failed due to invalid parameters. Workspace ID is invalid. So in this case, I had entered a workspace that it was not the correct key to actually connect to the log analytics workspace that it needed to. So it would be pretty easy for me now to then go in. I can just re-add the log analytics extension and make sure that I have the corrected workspace. So yeah, all right. I think that's it from me. I will pass it off to Garage. Thank you.
Mariah? Can everyone hear my voice and see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey everyone. So I'm actually I'm on the same team as Mariah. My name is Garage, and I'm also on the Arc team. And today I'm going to be talking about extension troubleshooting with Copilot. We actually did a lot of research earlier this year to try to figure out where our customers are getting frustrated, and extension troubleshooting started coming up again and again as a pain point for our customers. So we started looking into that direction and seeing if maybe we can do something with Copilot to help save time for customers and also provide more information, more insight than what might be available for them. Because as engineers, like I have more insight into like how to troubleshoot extensions. I have more information at my fingertips. So we're trying to kind of surface that for our users and have them kind of do that easily. So what we did here is we have a new Copilot handler. If you're familiar with Copilot in Azure, they have a model where there's multiple handlers in the kind of portfolio, and the Azure Copilot orchestrator will pick each individual handler based on which question is being asked. So we implemented a new handler for extension troubleshooting, and the goal here is to help users troubleshoot Arc-enabled server extension failures, like I said, to provide more insight and save time. And what you'll see is if you trigger our handler, what's going to happen is we'll try to find the root cause for the failure. We'll try to provide recommendations on how to get out of the failure that you're seeing. And then, if possible, we'll also offer remediations on the spot. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick demo on what that looks like. If I can switch tabs here. Okay. So I have one Arc machine onboarded right now. It's connected. Everything's working except for my extensions. Let's take a look at my settings. If we switch to extensions, we can see that I have 2 extensions installed, the AMA extension and we have the MDE extension, and they're both in failed state. So a few things you'll notice here, these are new. We have a few nudges. So on the top bar, we have a few nudges here. If you click this, it'll launch the Copilot window and ask Copilot these questions. So what extensions can I use to secure my machine? What extensions can I enable on this machine? So these are new. And you'll also see a banner here that says 2 of your extensions have failed and could have service impact. View error details or get troubleshooting help with Copilot. So if you click this button, it'll ask Copilot a question that will trigger the new handler that we've implemented. So let's go ahead and click that. So at this point, the orchestrator is trying to figure out which handler to invoke, and it's invoked our handler. So the first thing we ask is this the machine you'd like to troubleshoot? Because you're on this machine, we're kind of inferring which machine you're talking about, but if that's not the case, you can click the No button here and it'll open a resource picker, and you can pick the machine that you're interested in troubleshooting. Currently, we only support troubleshooting one machine at a time, one extension at a time, but we're looking into ways on kind of scaling this out and doing more at a time. But for now, this is the machine that I'm interested in troubleshooting, so I'm going to click yes. So the next prompt, it says the machine has two failed extensions, the AMA extension and the MDE extension. That's correct. Which extension would you like to troubleshoot? So I'm going to click the AMA extension here first. We'll circle back and do the MDE extension after. But after you click the AMA extension, I'm going to click continue and see what Copilot has to say. So here it says the provisioning state of the AMA extension has failed. The error message is summarized here. It says the AMA agent already exists on the machine. You can either proceed with install or uninstall the extension, try reinstalling again. So for some reason, the AMA agent was already installed and we tried reinstalling it. Maybe it wasn't cleaned up before. Maybe I had it installed earlier and I kind of tried uninstalling it manually or something. So it's in this weird state. And the recommendations here say that I need to uninstall the extension and they should kind of clean up any unnecessary leftover files or folders and then reinstall the extension. If this doesn't work, there's also some additional guidance here that you can try to execute this cleanup command, AZCM agent extension remove on the machine and then try reinstalling. And if none of this works, we also point you to our public docs on how to troubleshoot, which might help you get to your solution faster. So we also, because reinstall is something Copilot can do for you, it asked, would you like Copilot to reinstall the extension on the machine? And so you can click yes here. And what's going to happen is we're going to do a full uninstall of the extension. And then with the same settings that were installed for this extension, we're going to do a full reinstall. So the goal is to kind of get your extension in a factory new state. And hopefully that solves the problem. You'll see uninstall takes a few minutes, maybe in my experience, like 3 to 5 minutes to uninstall. You can see the extension is now in deleting state, so that's kicked off. After this is done, we'll reinstall, and reinstall takes maybe a minute or two. But we're hoping after that it's going to be in successful state. So we've successfully troubleshooted the AMA extension. Let's go ahead and see what's happening with the MDE extension. Let me try again. How do I troubleshoot my Windows Arc extension? So here I'm prompting Copilot again. Let's hope it hits our handler again. Sometimes it goes and kind of tries to search through documentation, but it looks like in this case it did hit our handler. And again, we're asking just to confirm, is this the machine you'd like to troubleshoot? I'm going to click yes. We'll start troubleshooting. Okay, so here Copilot has provided a response. It says the provisioning state of the MDE extension is failed, and it's because this operating system is not supported. So this response is actually generated by an LLM. We're looking at the error message on the extension, and sometimes we're looking at documentation. And it's saying here that we need to verify the operating system on the machine. You can find the list of supporting operating systems in our documentation. So you can click this, and it'll lead you to our public docs. I've gone through this before. I think like here you can find the list of like supported operating systems for this extension. If the operating system is not supported, consider upgrading or changing the OS to a supported version. So I think that's pretty easy to fix on my own. This isn't something Copilot can help with, but at least it gave me guidance on how to kind of fix this issue. So that's pretty much the demo. One thing I wanted to note is like this is, I believe, public preview right now, and we're going to be showing it at Ignite. And right now it only has a few kind of capabilities, and we're exploring adding more capabilities, making it smarter. So keep a lookout for that. And if you do end up trying this out, one thing I ask is if you can do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If we do a thumbs down, you can provide a few words here to explain why it didn't quite hit the mark. And then when you do this, we also have access to the prompts and the generated responses that were kind of captured in this chat. So I'm actively like monitoring that, and we're making adjustments based on the feedback that we get. And you can look at like what information is sent back to us here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Feel free to leave any questions in the chat. I can try to answer, or Shalab from my team can try to answer as well. Yeah, that's all.
So one thing,
Thanks.
thanks, Gurraj. I just like to emphasize the fact, one thing here. Due to this Copilot experience, you are getting troubleshooting recommendations and direct link for any public documentation right in the context. So that avoids going outside the context and searching for the troubleshooting. So it really, in the context of the troubleshooting, you get the direct points, links, and documentation. And if there's a remediation that can be performed, it can be performed right there. So I'd like to emphasize on that. Yeah. Thank you.
I believe Raghu was next.
Yeah, thanks, Guraj. So let me share my screen. A couple of things. Am I audible and can people see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, so it's good to see all of you. My name is Raghu, and I'm an engineering manager in the Arc-enabled servers team. So my team has been working on a concept to simplify connecting to key Azure services, and doing this, when you are onboarding the machine or connecting to Azure from the machine. So I'll expand a little bit on that with some context, and then we'll dive into the demo. I don't have any slides. It's just a straight demo. If you have onboarded Arc resources to Azure, you know that there are multiple personas or roles you can use, right? So we have the machine onboarding role, which is what we suggest the script that gets generated on the portal or any other script that are using to onboard to be used. The connected machine onboarding role is sort of a cut down role. It only has the ability to onboard resources or not exactly to manage them. So the RBAC is reduced. There's also the admin role, which a lot of you are aware of. And this admin role lets you do right actions on the machine, particularly managing extensions, deploying run commands, and doing right operations in general. The problem we are trying to solve here is how can we let the persona with the onboarding role be able to deploy extensions during the act of connecting to Azure. And this is particularly useful if you not only want to connect a machine to Azure, but also want to connect to key Azure services. So let me take you to the current experience today, where let's say you want to onboard a single resource to Azure. You can do this for at scale scenarios too. But let's say I want to onboard a single resource, so I go to the portal experience where I can pick the right resources and the right scope where I want to onboard. So let's say I want to onboard to one of the US regions, and I just supply, what scope I want to onboard to. And this is a script that's generated and makes it easy for customers to onboard. Essentially, this script does one of more things. It sets some initial context. It downloads the connected machine agent. It installs it on the machine. And it calls into the connect command, which is what takes your machine and projects it as an Azure resource. So there are 2 or 3 key actions here. So what we did was we added another action after you connect, and this action actually can onboard to certain VM extensions. Like the example I'll show you today is monitoring. So let's go and we don't have all the portal integration yet. So I'm using a private version of the agent. So let me go and actually onboard a machine. So I'm taking the same script that was generated on the portal. I just made a few modifications. So if you ignore all this goo, yeah. So let's actually onboard the machine to Azure first. Let's just make sure it's not in my resource group. Okay, I only have one other machine, which is a different machine. So let me go and onboard my local machine to Azure. This takes like a few seconds. Yep, the machine is onboarded, and if I were to look into the connection details, I see that the machine is in a connected state and it's running a latest version of the agent, and everything looks good. So let me go and refresh on the portal. Yeah, the machine does show up, and it's got no extensions installed, and it's in a connected state.
Wait, could you go back to the extensions, please? You went very fast.
Oh, sorry. Here. There's nothing here yet.
So why don't we see the connected machine agent here? I'm sorry, I got confused.
Oh, the connected machine agent is the piece of machinery which connects your machine to Azure. The VM extension is like a plugin for the agent, which is what you download, via the platform.
Yep. Okay.
So I think once I show you the next step, things will be somewhat clear. So let me go back to my script, and we added another capability. I don't know if people can see my screen. Yeah, so we added another capability in the agent where you can use the same CLI, and you can actually add another extension as part of the same flow. So think of this step showing up in your onboarding script that you generate in the portal. So now you are not only able to connect the machine to Azure, but you're also able to add extensions to it. But the scenario I want to show today is how can you attach to the monitoring service. I don't have the CLI piece as part of this demo because we don't have the agent side built out yet, but I'm just going to make a REST call to the service because we have the service side built out. So essentially, what we're doing here is we are calling a service API, which can add a particular extension, and the body would contain the extension to be added. This is a settings-free operation, and in the future we will support configuring things like associating a data collection rule for the monitoring agent, which is another stage. But let me go and run the step. Which essentially kicks off an extension install. And we have to remember that all this is being done in the onboarding context rule. So if you were to use the normal extension install flow using this, you will get an access denied. But we have a new API where you can add certain extensions, not all, using this flow. So if I go back to the portal, and if I were to refresh, you can see that the extension has started getting deployed on the machine. Even though I didn't have to go to the portal or to the control plane and kick off this operation. So everything got started on the machine as part of the onboarding script. So this will take a minute, but the extension should run to completion, and you should see monitoring insights and logs flowing. This generally takes a few minutes. But the thing I want to emphasize here is we are not only be able to connect the machine to the Azure, but also able to deploy certain key services. So what you would see in the future is to be able to configure these services in the same flow. So we are going to make the the portal experience where you go and generate your script to onboard more rich by adding those capabilities. So let's go back and see what happened to the extension. Yeah, this takes a second, but it should be done. So in the interest of time, I'll let this run to completion. But this capability is currently in private preview, and we are hoping that the December agent release will light up a lot of these scenarios, and customers will be able to try this out in a lot of the Arc regions. And I'll take any questions in the chat offline. So this was my demo, and we'll have some more details and blog post around the capability and what it lights up in the future. Thank you. And I think Justin is going to talk about his set of things.
Hello. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen and hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about configuring the agent on your machine for various security-related configuration settings related to extensions. So on your machine, when you onboard onto Arc, there exists many components, one of which being AZCMA agent, which is the command line that is used to interact with the Arc agent on your machine. And there's a subcommand named config, similar to other commands like Kubernetes config or git config, that allows you to configure different properties. And I'm going to go over some of them today. So a lot of customers are interested in restricting the interactions of extension operations, such as install, update, and delete, to a specific subset of extensions. Understandably, since they are usually interested only in a few of them and don't want any other extensions to be on their machine. We have two such properties to configure this, being extensions.allowList and extensions.blocklist to aid in that. Usually, or if not all the time, you can only use one of these. You can either sort of set a list of extensions that you want to block and allow all others, or set a list of extensions you want to allow and block all others. And you do this by writing this command with a list of comma separated values of the publisher and extension type. And the other two that are sort of tangentially related to the extension scenarios are extensions.enabled and config.mode. Extensions.enabled is a way for customers to directly interact with the extension service that sort of lives on the machine and manages the lifecycle of extensions. And if you don't really care about the granularity of setting specific extensions and you just want to disable or enable the entire service as a whole, this is the way you would do it. And the last one is sort of a more niche property that certain customers who want their machine to be a little bit more locked down use, called config.mode. So if you use config.mode full, that gives you full control over the config. You can set or unset properties. It's as if you didn't touch this property at all. Whereas monitor puts your configuration of the agent into a sort of more lockdown scenario where we have a preset list of properties that your machine is put under. There's a preset list of extensions that we allow. Most of them are related to security and monitoring. We also disable guest configuration and limits the sort of inbound connections to your machine. For example, it prevents SSH Arc and WAC from being used on your machine. So those are sort of the properties that customers can use to customize the machine. Don't really quite have a demo, but I can show the list of properties that are set with this config command. So here I have set config mode here to monitor. And these are the sort of like extensions that we allow in monitor mode. And if you try on the portal or via AZ PowerShell or AZ CLI to install any other extensions, those requests will fail. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Awesome.
Justin, I had a question really quick. It's like if you start to use maybe some of the newer extensions that are coming out, will it show that it was blocked so you can get that namespace to add it to the allow or block list down the road?
I believe it will return an error that will indicate. Sorry, just to clarify, are you asking if you try to install like an extension that isn't on this list, what happens?
Just trying to figure out like a way to like some of those are I want to say cryptic, but it's hard to get the right namespaces sometimes. So if you don't know what that namespace is, trying to think it'd be cool to say, okay, I just had one for monitoring come in to my extension, and now that's this namespace, so I know which one to allow or block. But I can talk with you offline too.
For sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of our presenters. This was really informative. Before, I know we do have a little bit of time left. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute, raise your hands, and we can go through them. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I put my question in the chat. I was curious because this happened to me with a customer where I guess I wasn't paying attention. It was a migration factory-led engagement, and I wasn't paying attention to the onboarding script that was used from multiple servers, and all of the servers ended up with the MDE extension once they were projected into Azure. And the customer was pissed off because he said, I don't want to pay $15 a month because that subscription had Microsoft Defender for Cloud servers P2 enabled. And so my question is that what put the MDE extension on it? Or did I just not pay attention and the script actually specified it and so it got loaded? I'm not sure how it happened, but how does that work?
Yeah, so typically you enroll in Defender for Servers or the Defender for Cloud as a plan. And so the way that works is you enable it at a subscription level, like the Defender for Servers, Defender for SQL, etc. And so if you do have the Defender for Servers plan enabled for your subscription, then any Azure Arc-enabled server will automatically be enrolled in that plan, including the rollout of the MDE extension. And so what it sounds like has happened here is you it onboarded your servers to Azure Arc, you had the Defender for Servers plan 2 enabled, and then those servers automatically had the MDE extension get deployed. Now, if you don't have Defender for Servers or a Defender for Cloud plan enabled, none of our onboarding script does extension deployment for MDE at this point. So it must have been tied to that. One last thing, Steve, this is also a public call. So we do have customers and everyone present. So I hope that provides some extra context for you. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, I didn't mention the customer name. Thank you, though.
Yep, thank you. Awesome. Any additional questions folks might have? All right. I guess we'll give everyone some time back. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much to our wonderful speakers, Mariah, Garaj, Raghu, and Justin for joining us today. Thank you all.
Thanks, folks.